The warship Ironclad shuddered as enemy plasma fire tore through its hull. Alarms blared, and red emergency lights bathed the cramped corridors in a bloody glow. Deep in the belly of the ship, in the rear turret, the tail gunner clenched his teeth and gripped his controls. His name was Jack. A simple man, with no grand titles or noble blood. Just a soldier doing his job. Outside, the black void of space was lit by streaks of laser fire and the burning wrecks of destroyed fighters. The enemy, a ruthless alien armada, had ambushed the human fleet near the ruins of a dead star. The Ironclad was the last line of defense for the retreating human carriers. Jack's hands moved swiftly, adjusting the targeting scope. His turret, a massive quad cannon, was the only thing keeping the enemy fighters from swarming the Ironclad's engines. Sweat trickled down his brow as he locked onto a sleek, dagger-shaped enemy craft. "Come on, just a little closer," he muttered. The alien ship dove, firing a volley of green plasma bolts. Jack squeezed the trigger. The cannons roared, shaking the turret. The enemy fighter exploded in a brilliant flash, scattering debris into the void. A voice crackled over the comms. "Tail gunner, we've got more incoming. 12 o'clock high." Jack swiveled his seat, eyes scanning the radar. 3 more blips appeared, diving fast. His heart pounded, but his fingers never wavered. He had one job: protect the ship. The first enemy fighter unleashed a barrage. Jack returned fire, his shells ripping through its wings. The second ship veered, but he tracked it, guns blazing. It spiraled out of control, vanishing into the darkness. The third ship was smarter. It looped around, dodging his fire, heading straight for the Ironclad's engines. Jack gritted his teeth. Not today. He unleashed everything he had. The cannons thundered, shells streaking through space. The enemy fighter erupted in flames, but not before firing one last shot. The plasma bolt struck the turret. The world exploded in fire and noise. Metal groaned, and sparks flew as the systems flickered. Smoke filled the cramped space. Jack coughed, his vision blurred. The comms were dead. The turret was damaged. But outside, the battle still raged. He wiped blood from his forehead and grabbed the manual controls. The guns were still operational. Barely. The Ironclad needed him. And he wasn't done yet. The turret was dying. Warning lights flashed across the cracked control panel, and the air smelled of burnt wires and scorched metal. Jack's fingers moved on instinct, bypassing damaged circuits to keep the guns alive. His head throbbed from the impact, but he ignored the pain. The Ironclad was still under attack, and if the tail guns fell silent, the enemy would tear the ship apart. Outside, the battle raged. Human and alien fighters clashed in a deadly dance, their engines leaving glowing trails in the void. The wreckage of destroyed ships drifted like ghosts, silent witnesses to the carnage. A new wave of enemy fighters streaked toward the Ironclad. Jack exhaled sharply, lining up his shot. The targeting system was fried, so he aimed manually, relying on years of instinct. He fired. The cannons shuddered, spitting out shells in short, controlled bursts. One alien ship shattered under the barrage, its hull splitting apart. Another rolled away, evading, but Jack adjusted, leading his shots. A second explosion bloomed in the darkness. Then, silence. The guns overheated, their barrels glowing red. Jack cursed, slamming his fist against the cooling system override. "Come on, just a few more shots." A distorted voice crackled through the damaged comms. "Ironclad to tail gunner, status report." Jack grabbed the mic. "Turrets damaged but still firing. Guns are overheating. How long until we jump? Engines are critical. We need 5 more minutes. 5 minutes. An eternity in a fight like this." Jack wiped sweat from his eyes. I'll hold them off. The comms cut out. He was alone again. The enemy wasn't waiting. 3 more fighters broke formation, diving toward the ironclad's exposed engines. Jack's guns were still cooling, but he had one last trick, the emergency charge. A single-use overload that would give him one devastating salvo before burning out the cannons completely. He flipped the switch. The turret whined as power surged through its circuits. The enemy closed in. Jack waited. Closer. Closer. Now. He fired. A storm of shells ripped through space, tearing into the enemy formation. One fighter disintegrated instantly. The second veered too late, its wing shearing off. The third tried to pull up, but Jack tracked it, guns roaring until the alien ship erupted in flames. Silence. The guns smoked, their barrels warped from the heat. They were done. But so was the enemy wave, for now. Jack slumped in his seat, breathing hard. He'd bought the ironclad time. But as he scanned the battlefield, his blood turned cold. A new threat emerged from the shadows of the dead star. A massive alien cruiser, its weapons charging. And it was heading straight for them. The alien cruiser loomed like a jagged mountain of black metal, its forward cannons pulsing with eerie green light. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The ironclad was already battered, one direct hit from that monster would split the ship in half. His turret was dead, its guns smoking ruins. But he couldn't just sit there. Jack unbuckled himself and kicked open the emergency hatch. Hot air rushed in from the damaged corridor beyond. The ship groaned around him, its metal bones straining under the weight of the battle. He grabbed a sidearm from the wall rack and sprinted toward the bridge. The halls were chaos. Crew members rushed to repair critical systems, their faces streaked with sweat and soot. A medic dragged a wounded soldier toward the infirmary, leaving a trail of blood on the deck. Somewhere deep in the ship, an explosion rumbled. Jack reached the bridge just as the captain, a grizzled veteran with a scar across his jaw, barked orders. Divert all power to forward shields. Where's our fighter support? Scattered, sir, the tactical officer yelled. That cruiser's jamming our comms. The captain's eyes locked onto Jack. Gunner. Why aren't you at your post? Turrets fried, Jack said. But if we can get a missile lock on that cruiser's engine vents, we might cripple it. The weapons officer shook his head. Our targeting systems are down. We'd need a manual lock, and someone would have to get close. A heavy silence fell. Jack understood. I'll do it. The captain studied him. That's a suicide run. Jack shrugged. Better than waiting to die. Minutes later, he was strapped into the cockpit of a Raptor-class attack fighter, the last one left in the ironclad's hangar. The engines whined to life as the bay doors opened, revealing the endless black and the monstrous shape of the cruiser ahead. No time to think. Jack punched the thrusters. The Raptor shot into the void, dodging streaks of enemy fire. Alarms blared as a near miss shook the ship, but Jack kept his hands steady. He weaved through the debris field, using the wreckage of dead fighters as cover. The cruiser grew larger, its surface bristling with gun turrets. Jack's targeting screen flickered, still no lock. He'd have to eyeball it. A swarm of enemy fighters peeled off from the cruiser, heading straight for him. Jack cursed and rolled hard to the left, lasers slicing past his wings. He returned fire, clipping one attacker, but the others stayed on his tail. Almost there. The cruiser's engine vents glowed ahead, a cluster of pulsating red veins in the ship's dark hull. Jack armed his last missile. Then, impact. A plasma bolt tore through his left wing. The Raptor spun wildly, alarms screaming. Jack fought the controls, muscles straining as the ship threatened to tear itself apart. He was out of time. With a grunt, he fired the missile. It streaked away, a tiny spark against the cruiser's bulk. For a heart-stopping second, Jack thought it would miss. Then, the explosion lit up the dark. The blast wave hit Jack's fighter like a hammer. His vision whited out as the Raptor tumbled end over end through the void, alarms shrieking in his ears. He tasted blood, must have bitten his tongue when the shockwave hit. Through the spinning cockpit window, he saw the cruiser burning. His missile had found its mark, rupturing the engine vents in a chain reaction that now tore through the alien ship's belly. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as internal compartments blew out into space. But there was no time to celebrate. Mayday! Mayday! Jack slammed his fist against the unresponsive comm panel. This is Ironclad Fighter, systems failing. Somebody copy. Static answered. The Raptor's controls were dead. Life support flickered on and off as emergency power struggled to keep up. Jack watched helplessly as his ship drifted toward the expanding debris field from the dying cruiser. A jagged piece of hull plating spun toward him. He flinched as it screeched across the canopy, leaving a deep gash in the reinforced glass. Then, movement. 3 alien fighters broke formation from the main battle, their engines flaring as they turned toward him. Jack's blood ran cold. They'd seen him. They were coming to finish the job. With shaking hands, he unbuckled his harness and reached for the survival kit behind his seat. The Raptor might be dead, but he wasn't. Not yet. The first enemy fighter opened fire. Jack ducked instinctively as green plasma bolts tore through his ship's tail section. The impact sent the Raptor into another sickening spin. Warning lights flashed across every panel now: hull breach, oxygen leak, complete engine failure. He had one chance. Jack grabbed the emergency eject lever just as another volley ripped through the cockpit. The canopy exploded outward and his seat rocketed into space, the sudden acceleration slamming him back so hard he saw stars. For a terrifying moment, there was nothing but silence and the infinite black. Then his suit thrusters activated automatically, stabilizing his spin. Jack gasped for breath as the heads-up display in his helmet flickered to life, showing minimal oxygen reserves and a single distress beacon pulsing weakly. The alien fighters circled like vultures. One broke off to inspect the wreckage of his Raptor. The other 2 adjusted course, coming straight for him. Jack's gloved hands fumbled for the sidearm he'd grabbed back on the Ironclad. It looked pitifully small against the approaching fighters. He knew what came next: they'd either blast him to atoms or capture him for interrogation. Neither option appealed. Then, a miracle. A streak of gunfire cut across the darkness, shredding the lead alien fighter. The other banked hard as a familiar shape roared past, the Ironclad, its remaining guns blazing. Jack's helmet comm crackled. "Hold tight, gunner. Cavalry's here." The captain's voice had never sounded so good. Jack's body jerked violently as the tractor beam locked onto his suit. The Ironclad's recovery system yanked him through space like a fish on a line, his limbs flailing as he streaked toward the battleship's gaping hangar bay. Behind him, the remaining alien fighter exploded under the Ironclad's barrage, casting an orange glow across his visor. The moment he crossed the force field barrier, gravity reasserted itself. Jack hit the deck hard, rolling several times before coming to rest against a stack of cargo crates. His entire body ached, ribs probably cracked from the ejection, left knee screaming from some impact he couldn't remember. "Get him up. Move." Hands grabbed him roughly. 2 crewmen hauled Jack to his feet while a medic slapped an oxygen mask over his face. The cold rush of air burned his lungs. "Captain wants you on the bridge," one of them shouted over the blaring alarms. "Now." They half-dragged him through the shuddering ship. Every step sent fresh jolts of pain through his battered body, but Jack clenched his teeth and kept moving. The Ironclad wasn't out of danger yet, he could feel the deck plates vibrating from near-miss explosions. The bridge looked like a war zone. Smoke curled from shattered control panels, and a young ensign was frantically trying to put out an electrical fire near the navigation station. The captain stood at the central display, his face illuminated by the tactical hologram showing their dire situation. "You look like hell," the captain said without turning around. Jack spat blood into his oxygen mask. "Feel worse." The hologram displayed their grim reality. The Ironclad was the last human ship still fighting. Around them floated the wreckage of their fleet. The alien armada, though damaged, still had 3 cruisers operational, and they were moving to encircle the wounded battleship. "Engines?" Jack croaked. Barely holding together, the engineer reported. "We can make one short jump, maybe." The captain finally turned. His left eye was swollen shut from some recent impact, but his remaining eye burned with grim determination. "We have one play left." He pointed to the hologram. "There's a neutron star 2 light minutes from here. Gravity wells strong enough to mess with their tracking systems." Jack understood immediately. "You want to slingshot around it. Either that or die here." The captain's voice held no emotion. "Problem is, we'll need someone to manually fire the braking thrusters at exactly the right moment. Navigation systems are fried." Silence fell across the bridge. Every crew member understood what that meant. Someone would have to stay behind in the engine compartment, cut off from escape when the ship made its desperate jump. Jack looked at his shaking hands, the hands that had already destroyed 1 cruiser today. Then he looked up. "I'll do it." The captain studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. "Get him to engineering." As they dragged Jack away, the hologram showed the alien ships closing in, weapons charging. The engine room roared like a dying beast. Jack limped past glowing reactor cores, their radiation shields cracked and leaking angry red light. The air stank of burnt oil and ionized metal. Every step sent fresh pain shooting through his ribs, but he forced himself forward. A young engineer with soot-streaked face handed him a makeshift control unit, wires exposed, screen flickering. "This should link to the thrusters," she shouted over the din. "Timing has to be perfect, half-second early and we spiral into the star, half-second late and the aliens will have firing solutions." Jack tested the cracked buttons. "How long?" 3 minutes until we hit the gravity well." Alarms howled through the ship as another impact rocked the hull. Jack grabbed a support beam to keep from falling. Somewhere above, the Ironclad's last guns kept firing, buying them precious seconds. He looked around the engine room, at the leaking pipes, the sparking consoles, the crew members frantically trying to keep the ship together just a little longer. These were the people he was about to save. People he'd never see again. The engineer hesitated. "Sir, there might be a way to automate the—" "No time," Jack cut her off. "Get to your escape pod." Her eyes widened. "But the captain said—" "That's an order." Jack barked with more force than he felt. She fled, leaving Jack alone with the shuddering engines and the countdown in his head. He activated the control unit. The screen displayed their terrifying trajectory, a razor-thin margin between salvation and destruction. The neutron star filled the external cameras, its gravitational pull already distorting space around them. The Ironclad groaned in protest as tidal forces started tearing at its hull. "Come on, you old bastard," Jack muttered to the ship. "One last dance." Alien cruisers appeared on the scanner, closing fast, weapons hot. The control unit beeped, 30 seconds. Jack's hand steadied. The pain faded. In this moment, there was only the ship, the star, and the timing. 10 seconds. The hull plates screamed. 5. Jack exhaled. 2. 1. His thumb slammed down. The braking thrusters fired at full power, altering their trajectory at the last possible instant. The ironclad skimmed the neutron star's gravity well like a stone across a pond, then hurtled away at impossible speed, straight through the alien formation. On the scanner, Jack watched as two cruisers, caught off guard by the sudden maneuver, failed to correct their course in time. The neutron star's immense gravity claimed them, crushing the massive ships like paper in a fist. The ironclad jumped. The engine room dissolved around Jack in a blur of light and sound. Then, silence. Consciousness returned in jagged pieces. First came sound, a steady, rhythmic beeping. Then smell, antiseptic sharpness cutting through stale air. Finally, light, harsh and white against Jack's eyelids. He groaned. Every part of his body protested as he forced his eyes open. A sterile medical bay greeted him, the hum of machinery undercut by distant ship noises. He was alive. Somehow. A shadow moved beside him. The captain stood there, his scarred face split by a grin. "Took you long enough to wake up." Jack's voice came out a rasp. "How?" "Emergency jump pod," the captain said, pulling up a chair. "Engine room had one, automatic launch when the ironclad jumped. We fished you out of the void 3 days ago." Jack tried to sit up, but the captain pushed him back down gently. "Easy. You've got more broken bones than whole ones." The events flooded back, the neutron star, the thrusters, the alien cruisers being crushed. The fleet? Gone. But so's most of their armada. The captain's grin faded. "We're heading home. What's left of us?" Jack stared at the ceiling. Home. A word that felt foreign now. The door hissed open. Crew members filed in, engineers, gunners, medics. The young engineer from the engine room stood at the front, holding a dented metal case. "We voted," she said, placing the case on Jack's lap. Inside lay a single, gleaming medal, the Star of Valor, given only to those who'd gone beyond duty. Jack looked around at their faces, exhausted, bruised, but alive. Because of him. The captain cleared his throat. "Turns out saving a ship makes you famous. They're calling you the tail gunner who wouldn't die." A laugh burst from Jack's lips, then turned into a cough. When he could speak again, he said the only thing that mattered. "Did we win?" The captain met his gaze. "Yeah, Jack. We won." Outside the medical bay window, stars streaked by as the ironclad raced toward Earth. Toward home. And for the first time in a long time, Jack smiled.